The Republican run for president seems Florida-centric. It also seems ripe with potential trouble. Former President Donald Trump facing mounting legal battles. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis facing changes to a struggling campaign. Our political analyst examines the race. And the races have been run, so we are introducing you to new members of Jacksonville City Council. Chris Miller is one of the many first-time elected officials. The retired Army colonel joins us in studio. And it's not a brand new program, but we're looking at the new level of success. We'll introduce you to a couple recent graduates heading to college and riding the rewards of 5,000 role models in Duval County on This Week in Jacksonville. Thanks for being with us today. The first debate among Republican candidates for president just 10 days away. The lineup, though, is anything but finalized. Jacksonville University Public Policy Institute Shercliffe Director Rick Mullaney with us. Rick is our political analyst at News 4 Jackson. We've been talking back and forth about, it's time. We really should lean into what's happening here in the presidential campaigns because that debate is coming up and because these two candidates in Florida are right at the top of the headlines here. So let's start with the fact that Donald Trump has spent a lot of his campaign energy trying to take out Ron DeSantis.
Well, he has, but one bottom line is clear, and that is that Donald Trump is the front runner, and by a lot. He is really going to be, he's the presumptive nominee. If you're to say today what is going to happen, and things can change, it is Donald Trump. And his number one target has been Governor DeSantis. It seems like a lifetime ago when Governor DeSantis was winning by 20 points last November in Florida. He had over 30% of the vote back in February. You've seen his campaign struggle. Some of that has been the result of attacks from Donald Trump. Some of it has been attacks from the non-Trump candidates. Some of it has been media. And quite frankly, Kent, some of it has been maybe some of his own missteps. But so far, it has been a struggling campaign for Governor DeSantis. And Donald Trump, defying all the odds, as always, despite indictment after indictment after indictment, 3 so far, probably a 4th coming, remains the front runner.
So let me lean into this side with the Florida governor first. So DeSantis replaced his campaign manager this week, Janera Peck, ending there were weeks of speculation about Peck's future. This is the latest development in what's been a month-long shakeup of Ron DeSantis' is it fair to say, struggling presidential campaign. He replaced Peck with his gubernatorial office chief of staff, James Uthmeyer. Uthmeyer's, we're told, is a trusted advisor, and he's known in Florida as an enforcer of DeSantis' agenda, if you will, and a pretty devoted protector of the Republicans' political brand. So what does this mean, Rick Mullaney, when we see Governor DeSantis, he's out campaigning. He said he would launch his campaign after the legislative session. That was the timing. But what we've seen since then hasn't been very encouraging if you're in the DeSantis camp.
Kent, it hasn't. You mentioned it's fair to call it a struggling campaign, and that it has been. Like I said, he was riding high for quite a bit. He was the presumptive number 2 choice that when everybody was rallying around, but he's really struggled. Some of it has been some strategic decisions. For example, his decision to run to the right of Donald Trump on abortion, on immigration, on some other issues was a strategic decision that they made, and it's been questioned by many. Part of the purpose of that strategic decision was to try to draw from the Trump base, to get them to move over. That's turned out to be very difficult, but what he may not have anticipated is that it's made it harder to consolidate the non-Trump vote. And what you've seen from those other candidates, you'd think they'd be going after Donald Trump, they're going after Governor DeSantis. So he's made a number of strategic kind of missteps, that some would call it that. There's also been, in addition to the strategy, what you would call missteps, such as Ukraine, when he called it a territorial dispute, and he's had to walk that back. His fight with Disney has been a bit of a challenge in the eyes of many. And although in Florida and the culture wars have been very successful about this is where woke comes to die, it has been characterized in a way that he wouldn't by some, and it's been a challenge nationally. And then there's the governor trying to connect with voters. Lots of things to point to. There's still time between now and Iowa, but for now, as I said earlier, Donald Trump is that front runner, and it's a struggling campaign. How
long can analysts and everybody say, well, it's still early? I mean, it's more than a year before November 2024, but the trend is not good for Governor DeSantis.
It is not. He needs a reboot, and you've seen that happen in the past, but not against an opponent like Donald Trump. His lead remains consistent, and it's really Iowa is what we're looking to in January, and New Hampshire, and those early states. That is what Governor DeSantis is banking on. And I will say this, and we may get to the upcoming debate, it's probably as important or more important for Governor DeSantis than it is for any other candidate. He needs to try to reestablish himself as the alternative to Donald Trump. hasn't been able to do that quite so far.
And it's not for sure that Donald Trump would participate in this debate. Certainly qualifies, and we're seeing kind of trickling in as we head toward this debate in 10 more days, the candidates who do qualify based on polling and that sort of thing.
Well, we have, and you saw where Vice President Pence recently qualified. There's now 8 on the stage. And Donald Trump is being Donald Trump. He's playing this suspensefully. He's holding out, will he show up? You'd be a fool if you're leading this much to do it. Yet, many believe, as Chris Christie does, that his ego will propel him onto the stage. It'll be very interesting to see what that happens. An important debate, although it's early, a very important debate.
Yeah, so we're seeing some video of the former president right here. The U.S. District Judge in Washington, D.C. has scheduled a hearing for this week. We've seen he was indicted again last week, as we've been talking about. We expect that 4th indictment from Georgia to come. Rick, what do you make of this? Because, yeah, you alluded to it earlier. Former President Trump, these legal challenges don't seem to be a challenge when it comes to his base and the people who support him.
They're clearly not hurting him with his base. It's not hurting him for the Republican nomination. And what he's doing strategically in terms of First Amendment, on all 3 indictments, the one out of New York, the one out of Florida, the one in Washington, that when he gets notice of the indictment, he's very quick to define it in his terms before there's an arraignment, so he can define it politically for the nation. I think for this hearing with the judge, what he wants to do is to have the First Amendment freedom to speak about it, because he wants to define it politically. It does appear, regardless of whether there's a trial, regardless of whether there's a conviction, regardless of whether there's another indictment, which there's likely to be out of Atlanta, he is likely a Republican nominee.
So the current president running for re-election, and President Biden has had some issues as well, family related, because Hunter Biden is in the spotlight here. A lot of Republicans, a lot of people who support President Trump say, hey, this is unfair. Is it really apples to apples, or is it a different thing here with what's going on with the president and his son?
Kent, it may not be apples to apples, but it's growing. What's something that started out as a bit of a distraction, which some may have claimed was simply the far right trying to score some political points, has been growing. Millions of dollars have been paid to Hunter Biden and his family. Much of that has been hidden in various corporate structures and LLCs. Whistleblowers have come forward to credibly argue that the Department of Justice, the Biden Justice Department, has stood in the way of those investigations. And more, the president's narrative as to what he knew and when he knew it appears to be shifting. I expect this to continue. I expect Republicans to pursue it. And something that was a little bit of a nagging nuisance is growing. And that particularly happened when the plea deal with Hunter Biden fell apart. And as we watch this play out in the weeks ahead, don't be surprised to see this get a little bit of legs as more and more facts come forward.
Maybe final thing. It seems like there's a chilling effect to the electorate. It seems like voters, when you have this kind of controversy, say, why am I even participating? There's potential trouble down the line when we get to an important election.
Kent, in the end, if you step back as a country, Trump versus Biden 2 is not the matchup the nation wants. I think Republicans would tell you that. I think Democrats would tell you that. But we're on track for that very matchup. You take a look at Donald Trump with his indictments and his challenges. You look at Joe Biden with his age and sort of this growing concern, and of course on Hunter Biden, and of course the economy. This is not the matchup that the nation's looking for, but it could very well be the matchup that the nation gets.
Rick Mullaney, appreciate it. And we'll be talking more about this between now and that big election. Thanks for being here. All right, the most pressing local government issue right now, that's the budget, and Jacksonville City Council is working through that process. The newly elected at-large Group 5 member joins us. Chris Miller is next on This Week in Jacksonville.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville with Kent Justice.
Thanks for being here. So I've enjoyed getting to know Chris Miller over the past few years, and I'm going to enjoy introducing you to him here on our show today. Miller is a retired colonel in the U.S. Army. He's someone who served more than 30 years, and he's still serving now as the district director for Congressman John Rutherford and newly elected to Jacksonville's City Council. So, Chris Miller, welcome to our show. You've been here before escorting the congressman, but here's our chance to talk about what you're doing now. So, big, broad question. How has it been this first month plus that you've been a city councilman in Jacksonville?
It's been great, Kent, and thank you very much for having me on the show today. I really have enjoyed it. It's been a great experience, even though it's just been a little over a month, as you said. But getting to know my colleagues on City Council and also just starting the learning process of getting to know all the areas of responsibility, working with the staff members, and they all, to a person, couldn't have been any more helpful to this point in helping me with that transition.
How does this compare to, obviously I just talked about 30 years experience in the United States Army, another career as well since then, but how does this compare to some of your experience there with what you're trying to accomplish now and learning a lot, I'm sure, in the first, 60 days, less than 60 days as a city council member?
Sure. Well, I think the way I look at things, I believe God sets us up for what comes next. And those 30 years that I served in the Army, it was, once that time was up, it was just a matter of how do I serve now? And how do I draw on those experiences that I had in the Army leading various units? And in fact, a lot of people don't know this, but at one time I was a city mayor and city manager of 17 different Army bases or barracks in the Mannheim area of Germany. And so I made all the decisions that you'd expect a mayor or city manager to make to lead a city. And so now, as a city council member, thanks to the good people of Jacksonville for giving me that privilege, I'm able to then draw on that experience running those different communities now to help our city move forward.
It sounds like that may fit into this role. So Jacksonville, unique, the consolidated government, so 19 city council member, but 14 districts, and then there's this at-large. So you're one of the at-large members, at-large group 5. How is that different than having a specific smaller district that you're representing for city council?
Yeah, the at-large members, the 5 of them, they are, I believe, freed up to be able to look at the bigger picture. But also there's added responsibility because instead of just a smaller area in your district, you're now responsible for the whole city. And so any one of the 1 million or so citizens of Jacksonville, we should be responding to them, but also we should be looking at the bigger picture, I think, and looking at the longer term, being more strategic so that we can help our city move forward by looking at the 3, 5, 10-year plan and trying to figure out what's the best way to help lead our city to get to that vision for that strategic plan that is put in place.
So 4-year term for you, do you think in that box? Oh, I gotta look at 4 years? It sounds like you're thinking even longer than that, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I think any company does that. And so I believe our city should be doing that as well. And there are some people focused in that way, but I want to help them with that because I've done planning in the Army and I can draw on that experience also to help our city move forward. And so I'm really excited, really enjoying working with all the other city council members. And in fact, the 5 at-large members were just out at Beaches Watch last week, and we had a really good meeting with them and opportunity for them to get to know us and ask us questions. And so that was very, very good to be able to hear their perspective.
So I want to show some video here. We're just getting to know some of the new roles for people. You're the new council floor leader. So what does this role mean? And what are the challenges? Are you enjoying this part too?
Yes, absolutely. I must thank City Council President Ron Salem for this opportunity. He's the one who assigns all of the positions, all the committees for all of the city council members. And, as a new guy, I didn't know what to expect, but he asked me to be the floor leader, and I was happy to do it. And in fact, that's just the way I've always seen things. During my time in the Army, it was, what do you want me to do? And put me in. And so Ron has done that, our city council president, and I'm really enjoying it.
So final thing, we got about a minute left in our visit here. Military and Veterans Affairs, it's a passion for you. I saw you attended the Transition Committee meeting at the end of last month. Do you want to see any changes there? Or are there things that you think the city can be doing better for veterans and military?
Well, I'm the alternate liaison for military and veterans, and so there's an added interest there, not just because of my past service, but because I have a heart for those who have served us, whether it's locally or nationally. And so I'm going to continue to do what I can to help the military veterans and their families, along with JSO, JFRD, and their families, because It's all about service, and that's something that we ought to be honoring and making sure that we support them, those who serve us every day.
Yeah. Colonel Chris Miller, Councilman Chris Miller, thanks so much for the time today. Appreciate you being here.
Please, Chris.
Yeah, okay, you got it, Chris. Thank you. All right, well, stay with us here. Back to school has been happening all over our area the past week. Just ahead, we're looking at the program helping get high schoolers ready for life and helping pay for college, by the way. Stay with us on This Week in Jacksonville.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville on Channel 4.
The Duval County Public Schools beginning the new year tomorrow. Right now, we're focused on a program called 5,000 Role Models of Excellence. And so joining us on set, Adrian Thomas, a 2023 Westside High School graduate. We're going to talk about college in just a second. And then Samson Cook from Terry Parker High School, graduate. They're both going to the same school. So let's talk about college in just a second. Adrian, why don't you start for you? How would you describe what 5,000 Role Models does?
Really, 5,000 Role Models is just a program to where young men can reach out and be themselves and get to know other people from different cultures and different backgrounds and be able to just have better opportunities to get to school and in school, you know, just learn different things from different people and different mentors, if such.
You know, Adrian, when did you get involved? Last year? No, it's been like 5 years. How long have you been involved?
No, sir. Honestly, this was my first year in the program.
No kidding.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Samson, what about you? How would you describe what 5,000 Role Models does?
Well, I would describe 5,000 Role Models as a mentoring group that taught me leadership skills. It basically got me prepared for college as well.
So let me ask you about this. You said prepared for college. One of the things that we wanted to talk about is both of you are part of the Wilson Scholars or Scholarships. I understand 11 class of 2023 role models were named Wilson Scholars. So what was that process? What does that mean to you that you get the scholarship here?
It means a lot to me. It means a lot to me and my family. One thing I would say is that it takes off the burden off my mother's shoulders of actually having to provide for me while I'm in college. Well, she's still gonna provide for me, but actually paying for my tuition. And another thing is that earning the scholarship gives me a lot of financial security. What I mean by that is when I'm in college, I don't have to worry about paying for my tuition. I can actually focus on my studies.
Yeah, that seems like a big advantage. Adrian, what about you? How does this feel to get this scholarship?
Honestly, I'm with Samson. You know, it's really just a blessing to be able, for my mother not to have to worry about really financial while I'm in school, being able to study and do things of that sort. It's really just honestly great that I have a scholarship to fall back on, you know, not have to really worry about money troubles and, like you said, worry about my studies.
So you guys went to different high schools, but going to the same college. Tell me which school you chose and why.
I chose Tennessee State University, honestly because of the culture. You know, like it's a HBCU, it's a good city, you know, it's something different. I didn't really want to stay in Jacksonville. I wanted to reach out and see things of different cultures and different nations and such. Nashville
will be a little bit different, right?
Yes, sir.
What about you? Why did you choose that school?
I wanted to expand my horizons, basically. Again, like he said, the culture there is amazing. And I feel like that once I go into Nashville, I'll be able to spread my wings and be able to develop more into a leader.
Yeah. Let me show you just a little bit more about the 2023 Duval County Wilson Scholars and this scholarship. So 11 class of 2023 role models named Wilson Scholars. Over $600,000 in scholarships to attend historically black colleges and universities across the South. The scholarships ranging, as I understand, from $20,000 to just shy of $100,000 to attend Clark Atlanta University, Benedict College in South Carolina, or Tennessee State University here. So this is really cool. It sounds like you've gotten some opportunities that prepare you for that wing spreading, for being able to fly. What's the thing you're looking forward to most, Samson, about getting into college?
The experience. Looking forward to I look forward for, again, as I said, the experience of meeting new people, being able to do new things that I wouldn't have be able to do in Florida. Also, I feel like that going to college, that I'll be able to, again, like I said, meet new people, and I want to become a leader, be able to gain the skills to become a leader.
Yeah. Adrian, why don't you wrap it up for us? What are you looking forward to in college, and what if somebody else wants to be part of 5,000 role models, maybe even a mentor?
Well, regarding the college, honestly, I just look forward to endeavoring into my studies, getting into my studies, meeting new people, having the experience of just the college life without going too extreme. And as far as 5,000, I would just say reach out. You know, we have a website that you can go to. It's on the DCPS page. It's a lot of different ways to get in touch with mentors and becoming a mentee. So honestly, if I can go back to high school and redo it, I would get into it sooner. For people out there who want to join it now, I would say get into it because it really just opens up a lot of possibilities that you never thought you could get.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to each of you. And I know the mayor and everybody else is saying, hey, go away to school, then come back to Jacksonville. Bring that back. But whatever you do, best success. And thanks so much for sharing with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So if you're only joining me Sundays for This Week in Jacksonville, okay, you're missing out. Be sure to subscribe to my weekly Twidge newsletter. You just head to news4jax.com/newsletters and then click to sign up under This Week in Jacksonville. And you're going to find more exclusive interviews on hot topics and politics when you join us on News4Jax Plus. That's available on Roku, Apple TV, Fire Stick, Android TV, Chromecast. You just search News4Jax on your streaming device to download. And then once you're going to find this interview under This Week in Jacksonville and that channel. We've got a bunch of great stuff on there for you. And we've got a great show lined up for next Sunday. City Councilman Michael Boylan and the retiring Nina Waters from the Community Foundation of Jacksonville in Northeast Florida. I'm Kent Justice. Thanks for watching on air on Channel 4 and the CW17. And you'll find us online at news4jax.com and streaming on News4Jax Plus.
See why every day more people are choosing News4Jax, Northeast Florida and South Georgia's #1 source for local news.